If you've ever been around a workplace focused on safety, you've probably seen it. A mountain of paperwork just loaded with confusing acronyms. Well, today, we're going to cut through all that noise. We are going to untangle one of the most important systems in workplace safety and turn all that paper into real-world protection.
You see things like an LTCA, an AEP, a PCA for hearing, a PPR for breathing. It's a total alphabet soup of safety documents, right? So you have to wonder, what's the one thing that actually connects all of this stuff? What's the common thread?
And the answer is the PGR, the Risk Management Program. You can think of it like a central computer. It takes all the specific data from these individual reports and fuses it all into one single, unified game plan for keeping people safe. It's the system that brings order to all that chaos.
Okay, so let's dig in. What is this risk management program really? And why is it so incredibly important?
Well, officially, in places like Brazil, it's defined by a national standard called NR01. And what that means is it's a legal requirement. Its whole point is to create a formal, step-by-step process for companies to find hazards, figure out the risks, and then get them under control. And make no mistake, this isn't some friendly suggestion. It's the law. The goals here are all about being proactive, not reactive. It's a logical flow. First, you identify every potential danger. Then, you evaluate just how serious each risk is. And after that, you put real, concrete measures in place to control it. The ultimate goal? To stop accidents and illnesses before they happen, by creating this cycle of always getting better.
And to make all this happen, the PGR is really broken down into two core parts. First up, you've got the risk inventory. The easiest way to think about this is like a detailed map of your entire workplace that pinpoints exactly where every single hazard is located. And the second part, the action plan. So if the inventory is the map that shows where the problems are, the action plan is the roadmap that tells you exactly what you're going to do about them.
So let's dive into that first part, the risk inventory. How do you actually build this map of hazards? What does that look like?
Well, the regulations are super specific about this. An inventory can't just be vague. It's not enough to say, loud machine. No way. You have to describe the hazard in detail, you have to list the kinds of injuries it could cause, like hearing loss, and you have to clearly name which group of workers is actually exposed to that risk.
And here's what that looks like in the real world, with data from a hearing conservation program. You can see right here, a welder is exposed to continuous noise measured at over 91 decibels. The legal limit is 85. The inventory captures this with precision. It's not a guess, it's a hard number, a quantified risk.
But here's the thing. It's not all about stuff you can measure with a fancy gadget. The PGR has to be way broader than that. It also has to account for risks that you observe, not just calculate.
For example, an ergonomic assessment might identify risks like lifting and carrying heavy loads, or work that requires frequent bending of the spine. Now, you can't measure those with a decibel meter, right? But over time, they can lead to some really serious injuries, which makes them absolutely critical to include in that inventory. Okay, so once you've mapped out all the risks, the numbers, and the observations in the inventory, that's when the real work starts. And this brings us to the second crucial part of the PGR, the action plan. A truly effective PGR is so much more than just a list of problems. It doesn't just diagnose the risks, it actually prescribes the cure. It is all about creating a clear, tangible plan to actively go out and protect people.
And this plan usually unfolds in 3 key steps. First, the top priority is to engineer the problem away, fix it at the source. That could be something as simple as recommending an adjustable stand for a laptop to fix someone's posture. Now, if you can't get rid of the risk completely, step 2 is protection. This is where you hand out the PPE, like ear protectors for that loud noise we saw earlier. And finally, step 3 is to empower the worker through training on how to use that equipment correctly, how to clean it, and how to care for it.
But here's the reality check. You can have the most brilliant inventory and the perfect action plan, but they are completely useless without one critical ingredient: people. The success of any PGR comes down to everyone playing their part.
The regulations are actually really clear on this. The company has to implement the PGR, tell everyone about the risks, and provide the gear and training. But the worker has a massive role too. They have to cooperate,
They have to use their PPE the right way, and, this part is so important, they have to speak up and tell their employer about any risks they see. It's a two-way street.
And that really sums it all up, doesn't it? At the end of the day, workplace safety is not just some top-down command. It's a partnership. The PGR creates the framework for that partnership, but it only works if everyone is actively involved in communicating.
Which leads us to maybe the single most important takeaway from all of this. A PGR is not a static document that you file away in a drawer to collect dust. If you believe that, you are completely missing the point of the whole program. Instead, you have to see it as a living, breathing system. It's a continuous loop. You evaluate the risks, you roll out the plan, you check to see if your fixes are actually working, and then you start the whole process over again. The rules say you have to formally review it at least every 2 years, or anytime something big changes, like new machinery or a new process. It has to constantly evolve.
And so that brings us to our final question, and this one is for you. Think about where you work. Is the safety program there a living system, one that's constantly adapting to protect its people? Or is it just a stack of papers in a filing cabinet? The answer to that question makes all the difference. Thanks for watching.